So, over the last few months, I have continued to collect Amiibo, like a fuck ton of them. Now, naturally, with an unhealthy obsession such as this, the question of is there a limit comes up quite a bit. And actually, in this case, there is. My one true goal with collecting all of these figures is to eventually have every single Smash Bros. Character in numerical order, which, to be fair, is quite a lot, and kind of hard to do. See, these figures started being made and sold in 2014 to coincide with the release for Smash for Wii U and 3DS. And holy shit, I just realized that is 10 years ago this year. Anyway, suffice to say, not all of these figures are easy to find. Hell, most of them are, to my knowledge, not even in production anymore, although that's starting to change a little bit. Either way, if you're relatively new into Amiibo collecting, you may have to make yourself familiar with the secondhand market. Now, I have definitely delved into secondary markets before, just on my other channel, although most of the time I've spent on sites such as eBay have mainly been LEGO focused. But that doesn't mean I haven't used eBay for gaming stuff either, but comparatively speaking, LEGO has always been my #1 use for the site. The only times I've used eBay for gaming were for both my GameCube and N64, as well as a handful of N64 games, but it hasn't been until very recently that I used eBay for Amiibo collecting, and I doubt I'm gonna make that mistake again. So in the midst of it all, with the Sora drop and the Zelda restock soon coming, I decided to hop on eBay for one more of those classic Amiibo. To me, some of the best Amiibo to this day are the original Smash releases, more specifically the original 8. Now, not the original Wave 1 Amiibo that released, moreover the original 8 fighters from Smash 64. To me, you just can't get any more classic than the original Mario, Donkey Kong, Link, Samus, Yoshi, Kirby, Fox, and Pikachu Amiibo. To me, these things are some of the most iconic out of any Amiibo ever produced, but obviously most if not all of these figures are extremely hard to find out in the wild. So I went on eBay, found a Pikachu for $8, and boom, it's here. And, well, I'm gonna be honest, what a fucking disappointment. So after opening it up, I immediately noticed that its base had this weird, almost Velcro-like material glued to it, and upon carefully taking that off, I was introduced to this hole that was drilled into it for seemingly no reason. Also, the figure just has a bunch of marks and scratches on it as well, not noticeable from far away, but once you know it's there, it just doesn't leave you alone. Thank God this one got restocked as well for double the fucking price I paid for this one, so I already know some smartass is going to say, well, that's what you get for getting it off eBay, and to that I say, I think I was a victim of false advertising. It's a bold claim, I know, but hear me out. I went through plenty of listings for all sorts of figures, and most of the cheap ones were cheap for a reason, and it was pretty obvious. And if it was cheap and just using stock images for the listing, I tried not to risk it at all. But for this was the picture of the Pikachu on the listing. Clearly not the one I received. Now, although I totally got fucked by eBay with the Pikachu thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that I believe all secondary markets are a lost cause. Pikachu is by no means the only figure I've gotten pre-owned. In fact, all of the Pokemon figures that I have, with the exception of Jigglypuff, have been pre-owned, as well as Samus, Zero Suit Samus, and Ryu. All of these figures were purchased from a local retro gaming store called Level Up, and if you ask me, is so much better than using sites like eBay. For one, you get to see exactly what you're buying in person instead of praying it doesn't come in all fucked up. Second, and probably most obviously, you get to walk away with your purchase right then and there, as opposed to waiting for a package. And this might just be applicable to Level Up, but thirdly, the prices themselves are really reasonable. Half the time, I would call them a steal. I would end up getting Mewtwo, Lucario, and Charizard for about $15 each, which in itself is pretty standard with Amiibo pricing today. Pichu was a little closer to $20, which still, for a newer and I believe to be out-of-print figure, is also extremely reasonable, but it gets a whole lot better. Samus, Zero Suit Samus, and Ryu were all $10. Now, these figures are still sold today at the Nintendo store in New York, but for the new $15.99 price point, so suffice to say, I definitely saved some money here. But above everything else, all of these figures are in extremely good condition, and minus the packaging, obviously, are practically brand new. Secondhand markets can be really cool, but at the end of the day, it really is dependent on what exactly you're looking for. For some instances, eBay is clearly the better bet as opposed to a secondhand market, and in other instances such as this, it might actually be the opposite. And although only a few short years ago I would have told you I'm only really looking for new Amiibo, places like Level Up have definitely changed my mind, and more importantly have helped me get closer to achieving my end goal. Oh, really?